Slope-intercept form. So we have done slope consistently for this week, right? We've done slope from a graph. We've done slope from ordered pairs. We're now going to do slope from an equation. Right? Slope-intercept form is an equation. So let's review the idea of slope. What do we know about slope? There are three things, three quote-unquote formulas, three ways of finding slope that we know. What's one, Josie?
Change in y over change in x.
Perfect. Change in y over change in x. Which, if we were going to write that as an equation, right, we were going to actually make a formula to follow. How would we write that? Brad?
y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2.
Perfect. I'm going to write y2 minus y1 because if you Googled it, that's what's going to show up, correct? But could you do y1 minus y2? As long as you did x1 minus x2, right? You have to do it in the same order. But if you Google it, it's going to show up y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right?
Yep.
What's the third thing? If you have a line, you have a picture of a line. What's the third way of finding slope? Rise over run. If you want to get real nerdy about it, that triangle is the Greek symbol delta. And when you take physics, the Greek symbol delta means change. So that's another way of writing the change in y over change in x is delta y over delta x. Because it's shorthand. It's shorter. It's faster to write it that way. All right, so slope. We have slope, intercept, form. Form is the way that we write it. We know what slope is. Now let's talk about intercept. What does intercept mean? If we are playing football and somebody intercepts the football, what happens? There's a turnover, right? It's from one team to the other. But how does an interception happen?
If the other team catches the ball.
Someone from the other team catches the ball, correct? Meaning, here's my play, right? Here's the football player. They're running down the field. Let's go this way. To catch the ball, right? It means that another player from the other team is running at them, right? You can't intercept the football if you're not running towards them or near them, correct? And they're going to run, right? And they're going to cross the route, right? The football is being thrown to them and they're going to catch it, right? Intercept means that they are crossing paths, right? If I'm playing offense and I'm running and I'm going to catch the football and Brooke intercepts the football, that means that she crossed paths with me, correct? She ran in front of me, behind me, next to me, and caught the football instead of me. She intercepted it. She crossed my path. The intercept, the intercept is where the graph of the line crosses the axis. What's the axis? Or what's a axis in a graph?
Yeah, like the x.
The x and y, the grids, right? The things that we count on, the number lines. So slope intercept, we're going to have to deal with slope, rise over run, the change in y over change in x. And we're going to have to talk about the intercept. We're looking for where the graph of the line crosses the axis. And specifically, in slope-intercept form, it is always the y-axis. This is sometimes hard for people to remember. They can't remember, is it the y-axis or the x-axis? It is always the y-axis. In slope-intercept form, it is always, where does the line, the graph of the line, cross the y-axis? Again, you guys, I know you're excited to hear this. It is glorified counting today. If you can count, we can do this.
Yeah.
Those of you that can't count, sorry. I don't know what to tell you. All right. Formula for slope-intercept form. There is a formula. Again, mathematicians, not creative people. Slope-intercept form, the name has the information in it. We need a slope and we need the intercept. If it's slope-intercept form, we're looking for slope and we're looking for the intercept. Slope-intercept form, here it is. You may have seen it sometime before. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to color code because it makes life a little bit easier. M, the variable m, is the slope. I guess I'll put m equals slope. What do you know about slope? In all of the practice we've done with slope, your slope answer can be in what form?
Fraction.
It can be a regular old fraction, 1/2. What else can it be? It can be a whole number. What else can slope be?
0.
Slope could be 0. What else can slope be? Can it be positive?
Yeah.
If it can be positive, what else can it be?
Negative.
It could be an improper fraction. And it can be undefined. Lots of things we know about slope. M is your slope. Whatever touches, right? It's the coefficient of x. M is your slope. It's your coefficient of x. Why am I circling the plus with the letter B? Because maybe it says plus 3. And if it said plus 3, what's the value that I'd circle? 3, right? But what if it said minus 3? If it said minus 3 right here, what would I circle? I'd circle a negative 3, right? Because the minus belongs with the value. This B equals your y-intercept. B is your y-intercept. And what does y-intercept mean again? We just defined it. What does intercept? What does the y-intercept mean?
With a graph of the line where it crosses the y-axis.
Where the graph of the line crosses the y-axis. It's called the y-intercept. It's where the graph crosses the y-axis. It can be positive or negative. It is most likely 95% of the time going to be a whole number. 5, -3, 0, no decimals. Every once in a while you'll get a decimal. We'll talk about it later. X and Y just tell you that it's a graph. We don't worry about those. Every single problem is going to say y equals. Then it's going to have something for slope. Then it's going to say x, and then it's going to be plus or minus the intercept. So we're going to practice just identifying right now, really quickly. We're going to practice identifying, then we're going to practice graphing. Are you ready? Here's your first problem. Y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Y equals 1/3 x plus 2. I want you to tell me my slope and my intercept. Y equals 1/3 x plus 2. What's my slope? 1/3. And what's my intercept? Plus 2. This is the identification process. Okay? Let's do another one. Y equals 3x minus 4. Identify the slope. Identify the y-intercept. Identify the slope. Identify the y-intercept. What's the slope? 3. Ladies and gentlemen, when we graph this, which we'll do in a minute, I have to graph slope. When I graph, has to be a fraction. So how would you make 3 into a fraction? 3/1. And what's your y-intercept? -4. Y equals 1/2 x. Tell me your slope. Tell me your intercept. Tell me your slope. Tell me your intercept. Who can tell me the slope? 1/2. What's the intercept? 0, because it says plus 0, right? I mean, it doesn't say plus 0, but could it? Try this one. Y equals x minus 3. Tell me your slope. Tell me your intercept. Tell me your slope. Tell me your intercept. Who's got the slope?
1.
Good. 1. Because if it was 0, would the x be there? If there were 0 x's in that problem, would the x be there? No. Since there is an x there, the coefficient is 1. How do you make that a fraction to graph? 1/1. And what's your intercept? -3. Okay, last identification. Y equals -3/4 x plus 1. Tell me your slope. Tell me your intercept. There are 2 things you could say for slope. 2 correct choices for slope. What's one of the correct choices for slope? -3/4. What's another correct choice for slope? What's equal to -3/4? +3/-4? Are those the same? Yeah. What's your intercept? 1. Oh wait, on the other side we're going to practice graphing it now. You can identify, now let's practice graphing. So you should have 4 graphs, cut them apart, we're going to glue them down one at a time. I'm not going to glue them yet, but I just want to show you kind of the spacing. So I guess you could glue them down. There's no harm in that. Skip 3 lines and glue 2 across. All right, so the slope for this equation is what? 3. You have to make it a fraction to graph it, so it's 3 over 1. The intercept is what?
Plus what?
Negative 1.
What? Oh.
All right. I suggest when we start out, you highlight the y-axis to remind yourself that it is the y-intercept. And we graph in alphabetical order, meaning we start with the intercept, and then we do our slope. So my intercept is -1. My y-intercept is -1. Alphabetical order. B comes before M. So I'm going to plot my intercept. And then from this dot, I'm going to count my slope, which is 3 over 1. So I'm going to go up 3 and over 1. We are going to fill as many dots as you can. If you have only 2, that's most likely not good enough. Sometimes you can only fit 2 on the graph. But if I can fit more when I'm grading it, you should fit more, correct? Because can you do the slope again, up 3 and over 1? In fact, I can fit even more dots on this line. I can go down 3 and left 1 because 3 over 1 is equal to -3 over -1, correct? Then I connect all the way through the graph and draw arrows. Bless you. Here's your next one. Y equals -1/2 x plus 3. Identify your M, identify your B. Identify your M, identify your B. What is the slope? 1 over 2. What else could you say? 1 over -2, both work. And what's your intercept?
3.
+3. I don't have to put the plus. I can just put 3. Remember, the y-axis is where we start. We always graph in alphabetical order, so our intercept goes first, which is 3. And from my y-intercept, I'm going to graph my slope, which is -1 over 2. What does that mean? Rise over run. What does -1 over 2 mean? How do you rise -1? You go down 1. Instead of up, you go down because it's -1 over 2. It's +2 on the bottom, right? So I'm going to go +2. Down 1, +2. Down 1, +2. Can you fit more dots? How do you fit more dots on? Up 1, backward 2. Up 1, backward 2. Up 1, backward 2. Connect all of the dots. The more dots you have, the easier it is to connect in a straight line. And there's your graph. All right, try these two. Find your slope, find your y-intercept. M and B, identify your M, identify your B. Y equals x minus 4. What's the M? What's the slope? Slope is 1. How do you make that a fraction? And what's the intercept? -4. Always start at the intercept, then do your slope, so -4. And my slope is up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. I can fit lots of dots on this one. Can I fit more? What's the same as up 1 over 1? Down and backwards. Y equals -3/4 x. Y equals -3/4 x. Y equals -3/4 x. What's the slope? -3 over 4. What's the intercept? 0, so it starts at the origin. -3 over 4. Can I only fit 2 dots? I can fit one more. How do I fit one more? Up 3 and backward 4. And that's graphing slope intercept form. Your line should go all the way through the graph.